Alright, hey, Vinyl Community, Jeff back again with part 3 of my finds at the brand new record store that is not too far from my home and will definitely be getting repeat visits to. As I mentioned in the first video, the location is on the other side of a tunnel. We don't go to that side of the water as often, as frequently, just because you got to fight the tunnel traffic. Sometimes it can be really ugly trying to get through there. And, you know, so we can tend to stay within our confines of not crossing bridges or going through many tunnels to go places. But in this case, it was a brand new record store, just opened a couple weeks ago. Had to check it out. Liked the place, had some great stuff and great prices, so I will be going back. Now we have a reason to go over there. My brother lives on that side of the water. I need to start making plans to get together with him more, you know. Maybe go do a record store on a Saturday and meet him for lunch or something, because we don't get together near as often as we should. So, first video I showed what I considered my ultimate finds for the day. Second video was just some stuff my wife found in the dollar bin, one of which brought back some childhood memories. Traumatic? I don't know. Anyway, this is basically the stuff that I got that were simple things, hole fillers. And so, yeah, we're still thrilled to get some of these. And I left a handful of things like this back there. So there is more that I could get. And he's getting stuff in all the time. So all of these purchases they're all under $10. Most of them are $5 and under, I'm pretty sure. Ted Nugent, Little Miss Dangerous. Yeah, that's the same wrong thing. I see a lot of Ted Nugent. He had some other Ted Nugent that I already have, but I have never really seen this one in the wild. So I thought, yeah, definitely grabbing that. And this is, you know, I think that this was one of the $5 ones. So this is what, 85, 86. So this is in the later 80s. The most stuff you see are the 70s stuff, though I still have yet to find a copy, at least in the past couple years, of Cat Scratch Fever. Find all the other albums. And when I do find some of the older albums that tend to be really beat up, but I literally have never seen a Cat Scratch Fever in my local area. I don't think ever. But I find all the other ones, and I've got all the other ones, but I've never seen anything from this era either. So Little Miss Dangerous, I'm like, yeah, I got to grab that for sure. So, and then this is one, actually, I found this one right before that one, but Turnstiles by Billy Joel. Funny because really this is the only Billy Joel album of the early years that I did not have on vinyl. And about 2 weeks ago, on my other local store that I go to here locally a lot, they had this, but the price was more than I really wanted to pay for this album that's older. Didn't have any major hits on it. I mean, Say Goodbye to Hollywood is a big hit now that we know. At least I know, you know. It wasn't a big hit. I guess it was one of the bigger hits. My wife knew it. We listened to this other night. But, you know, this is before it just really blew up for him with all of the 52nd Street and Stranger and Glass Houses and all that stuff. But still, it's an album that I like. I have the, you know, remastered CD that came out 10, 15 years ago. So I wanted it. They had it. It was less than half of what the other store locally was selling it for. So I was more than thrilled to grab this album. So yeah, a hole filler that I grabbed there. Then so I was kind of done with the typical pop and rock, and now we're over looking. I'm helping my wife and look. She's flipped through the dollar section. Above the dollar section was the jazz stuff, and she had flipped through some of that. She's like, "Well, they got some Spyro Gyra here." I'm always on the lookout for a couple Spyro Gyras that I'm missing, some Billy Cobhams that I'm missing, and some other bands. Chick Corea, Electric Band. There's an album I'm looking for. So there's a handful of some of the more contemporary jazz stuff that I'm looking for. But as we're flipping through the jazz stuff, I hit the section for Al Di Meola, and I'm like, oh, you know, I have some of his stuff digitally, but never on the vinyl stuff. So Electric Rendezvous is one of his later 80s out. Well, let's say later, because he was really breaking it in the 70s. And this is what, 1984 or 5. Slightly different album. It's kind of electronica at times. Lots of the guitar. I'll use the term loosely, shredding guitar, but it's like acoustic shredding. And he's just like going to town. So it gets kind of chaotic at times, and so it's not as, you know, laid back type stuff. But anyway, I saw the Al Di Meola section. I'm like, oh, cool. You know, Elegant Gypsy, and they were again. This one says $3, but it's actually $5. I wish it was $3. Still in the shrink wrap. As far as got the shrink wrap on it, I probably should peel it off because it looks like it is glued on there. Yeah, I'm not even sure I could get that off. Anyway, and again, they were in great condition. It's got this hype sticker there. Maybe I should save it for that. And the other one they had, the casino, is one of the ones that I have on, I think, CD or digital that I wanted to get. But for some reason, that one was twice as much. That one was like $10, and all the rest of these were like $5 and under. And I'm like, I had too many albums at this point. I'm like, I don't want to spend $10 for it. So I grabbed the two that were $5. And okay, so that was basically it. They didn't have all the Spyro Gyra they had. I already had. I didn't even see any Billy Cobham. Now that I think about it, did I really look, or was I distracted when I got to D's for Di Meola and stopped because I grabbed some of those? No, I'm going to have to check that when I go back. But yeah, so then we're done. And then, as I mentioned in my second video, my wife made me. She said, "Go check those $3 bins over there." There was some bins that were like $3 and $5. And there was only 3, and you saw Pat Benatar and stuff, and I'm like, I can see Al Hurt and all these other things. I'm just like, it looks like a lot of the traditional, you know, the stuff that you see in the thrift stores, the Percy face and stuff. It just, and a couple things in the front looked like, okay, they had some stuff. So I went ahead and flipped through it, and a lot of it was that. A lot of it was just classic stuff from the 50s and 60s, which is not as much interest, you know. And then all of a sudden, boom! I hit this one, and I grabbed it. And it was, you know, $3. I handed it to her. She said, "See." Anyway, Return to Forever, Romantic Warrior. It's funny. Now, she doesn't know who they were, and I'm like, I have like half a dozen Return to Forever albums. And when I got home and logged this in, I realized I have now like the first 6 or 7 of their albums in consecutive order. This one was one of the ones that was missing. So over the years, I have found the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th or whatever. And then I told her, I said, you know, it's funny because when people in the VC, I know Ron Haggerty has shown this, I've seen other people show this album, I'm like, it seems like the majority of times when I find somebody talking about Return to Forever in the vinyl community, this is the album they show. I don't know if I've ever seen the ones that I have, the earlier ones from that. So if you're not familiar with them, and like my wife wasn't familiar with them, I'm like, you got Chick Corea on piano. A lot of times it'll be Chick Corea's Return to Forever, but is how it is. But the band was for Return to Forever. But Chick Corea on piano, and then you got Stanley Clarke on bass. And so, you know, if you're not familiar with him, I'd love to find some. I see his stuff occasionally. I have yet to delve into it. I used to have a bunch of stuff of his back in the 80s on CD. I probably have 1 or 2 on CD. Phenomenal bass player. You know, he's the Billy Sheehan of bass, of jazz. I don't know. He's just very good. You got Lenny White on drums. I know he's been in things, but I'm not as familiar with his work. And then you got Al Di Meola on guitar from there. So it's a super group of sorts. And they've done a lot of great stuff in the day. And at times they kind of get into a little bit of the improv-y type sounding jazz, but for the most part they're not in that era. I'm not as big into that improv where it's just chaos, nobody doing their own thing. And this is not really like that. But at times, because each guy is so phenomenal in the musicianship, that they solo here and solo there, and it kind of can get like that. But yeah, enjoyable. So again, I grabbed another one of those. I'm glad I did. She did force me to look through that because I think there's a couple albums after this. I'm not sure now. I think so. But anyway, I've got the majority of the early stuff. So yeah, I'm glad to have that as a whole filler. And so thank you, honey, for forcing me to look through those 3 bins. There really wasn't much else in there. You know, even the Pat Benatar and stuff like that. Either I already had it or it was in pretty rough condition. So, but that, not so much. I've already listened to it. Great stuff. That's it for this one, though. That is all that I found in 3 broken down videos, what I found in this local store. And I'm looking forward to going back for sure. He had lots of stuff and lots more to come. So anyway, thanks a lot for watching. Rock on and rock hard.